Get a chance to see how two of our players heading into this tournament are going to do as well. And my oh my, let's talk about these teams, Aaron, because we have a lot of new Paldean Pokemon on this list, but also some Pokemon that haven't been as viable as what we've seen previously. Like maybe at the beginning of Sword and Shield, yes, but like to see Hydreigon back in the mix is super exciting to me.
Yeah, Dondozo Tatsugiri is going to kick us off here for round 3 on the stream. Brendan running a combo of Dondozo Tatsugiri. There's the Talonflame. We were talking about Tailwind earlier, and so that's one of course, the premier Tailwind users in the format. You can utilize that for speed control immediately. And then the Sylveon, Masquerada, and the Annihilate. For Hayden's end here, there's the Mousehold, one of the brand new Pokemon. Mousehold, the Armor Rouge, as well as the King Gambit, all of these being brand new Pokemon from this generation, all being quite powerful in their own means.
Are we here? Are we?
Yes!
Let's go! Okay.
The battle has finally started here, and I can't wait. I mean, it's actually interesting, right? Because both players have had know exactly what their opponent was going to lead with. So Brendan locking in his moves very, very quickly, and kind of opting just for a lot of immediate offense here. One thing you actually called out was that the Mousehold on this team is Friend Guard, which is pretty interesting because it's Friend Guard with the Wide Lens and the Population Bomb set, which is actually, I wouldn't say, like super, super common here. And so Mousehold right now definitely threatened. Knockoff, by the way, from Masquerada is really good into Population Bomb, Wide Lens Mousehold, because if you get rid of that Wide Lens, it does not have nearly as much accuracy anymore. And here's a Terra to get things started.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up because Wide Lens really does help you to nail those Population Bombs to get like maybe 8 to 10 hits, but it does have an accuracy check for every single time you want to hit with Population Bomb. So we're going to just see it protect here as that Hydreigon will Terra to Steel type, and the knockoff they go right into that protect too.
Yeah, I think great protect on Mousehold. I think you either often consider a protect or a switch, and the Tailwind here is really critical. That's a bold move as well, because Brendan's Masquerada actually has that Trick Room. So Hayden kind of saying, I don't think you're actually going to go for the Trick Room in front of me. And this actually is super, super smart from Hayden's end, because now the Mousehold, it still has that Wide Lens, has that Population Bomb, and you have full speed control. The other thing is, by getting up Tailwind now, you also have a little bit more pressure against the potential Dondozo Tatsugiri in the back. And so I think that was a really safe play from Hayden, because Brendan actually didn't really have too many options to cover for that Hydreigon, right? Like, your best bet is maybe clicking knockoff onto the Hydreigon, but otherwise, like, yeah, Hydreigon likely will survive the turn. So it's a smart play from Hayden, and I think she gains a really huge advantage from that, because now Mousehold has the ability to Population Bomb either slot.
Yeah, and at this point, I too feel like you just have to go after that Mousehold, because it's a huge threat on the field right now. And Hydreigon, Terra typing to Steel, I mean, you still have some really nice moves available, but you're also just kind of looking at some of the other options. Now that Terra has been committed for Hayden, that Terra is now not available for any of the other Pokemon that she has on the field or in the back. And so right after that Tailwind, we're going to see a pivot as Armor Rouge now going to be taking its place.
Yeah, I like the decision to conserve the Hydreigon, mainly because, yeah, it's really valuable into the potential Dondozo in the back. All right, here's Population Bomb. 3 hits. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Oh my god!
It's on 10.
I was like, oh, the invisible focus sash might be there, but no, this time that Mousehold will be able to get all 10 hits in. And Masquerada is now out of here. So a huge offensive threat being taken off the board for Brendan. So let's see what he has in the back here. And we do get the confirmation that it's Dondozo and Tatsugiri. So how is this going to be played out here? Dondozo's coming out on the field first.
Yeah, I mean, Dondozo's a Pokemon that can snowball so quickly, right? Now, the key thing is that the Tailwind was set up on the opposing end. I think one of my main questions is still, how does Hayden actually KO Dondozo, especially once it actually gets the boosts up, right? Because right now, I think Brendan is in a slight deficit, but Dondozo and Tatsugiri, I think, very likely can actually just clean up and sweep through the entire team, right? And so I think, like, it'll be pretty important, in my opinion, for Hayden to conserve this Mousehold, because I think having redirection and follow me even for a single turn is a really, really big deal. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see Hayden actually, you know, maybe go for a protect with Mousehold, maybe even consider switching it out. The other big question is, what is Hayden's final Pokemon? It's going to be either the Sylveon, the Amoonguss, or the King Gambit. But we're going to start the turn with a protect and Population Bomb just going into Sylveon here.
All right. We got 4 hits.
5, You can see, right, like, with this friend guard set, you're not actually getting, like, one-hit knockouts, right? And so, it's still doing a ton of damage, though, right? You definitely can't discount that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that also, that opens up the door for the Armarouge. That's going to be a big knockout onto the Sylveon, too. But this is the end game that you were kind of hoping for to see with the Tatsugiri, the Dondozo now getting set up. Does Hayden have the right answers? You still have that Hydreigon in the back that has been preserved for later, but it's time to activate that commander.
Oh, that was just a really hard call out by Hayden saying, I don't think you're going to switch out. Because the thing is, if you switch out, Tatsugiri gets eaten up by Dondozo, and given that both of the Pokemon targeted the Sylveon slot, there'd be nothing there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The other thing right now is there's the Encore from the Mousehold as well. So, depending on how the Mousehold is actually trained here, if it actually just outspeeds Dondozo and gets the Encore off, that would be kind of a nightmare.
Yeah, just lock that Dondozo into using Protect. That would not feel very good. But we're at the point now where Commander has given Dondozo those boosts. Mousehold is faster, especially under those Tailwind conditions, so Dondozo has to go for an Encore here. And Side Shock from the Armarouge, going to be so smart just to kind of keep going for a bit of that damage, but Dondozo's locked now.
Hayden played this game literally perfectly. Like, I don't think I would make a single different move. Like, she was so methodical in the execution. I don't think it's easy to, like, have this game plan as well, right? But it's very clear that even though on paper I think her team doesn't look like that strong to Dondozo, this is one of the answers into it, right? The combination of Tailwind plus this Mousehold, I mean, like, making every call correctly, and also I think the one term Brendan's going to keep thinking about in this game is, oh, should I have just switched out immediately into the Tatsugiri, right? And I think, like, Hayden just having so much conviction going for that double up. I think this game looks very differently if the Tatsugiri just switches in immediately.
The game looks a little bit different if you do have the ability to try to heal up some of that HP, but the fact that you got locked into Encore and that it's not going to expire for a few turns really does make that way riskier of a play to even go for. So it's not even a surefire shot that Dondozo would have been able to stay alive either, especially when the Mousehold is still up too.
Yeah, I think, like, this is honestly not an easy matchup for Hayden, which is why I'm even all the more impressed given how she played that. That last game was literally perfection. It was
perfect.
Like chef's kiss, like, oh my goodness. But
what a way to start off the stream.
It's a best of 3, right? So she's gonna have to do it again at least once in the next 2 games, and I think that now Brendan realizes, okay.
I just feel like the Armarouge was able to put on so much pressure, but that now Trick Room is going to be available to really set the stage here if Hayden decides to go for something like that.
Yeah, I actually misspoke earlier. I was like, Hayden doesn't have any immunities to this final Gambit. It's actually Ghost Terra Mousehold, though. So what you can do is just Ghost Terra turn 1, go for Follow Me, and then Trick Room here. And there's actually very little you can do to deny that. So I wonder if that's something that Hayden considers in this position. Hyper Voice is honestly not that strong. This is a beautiful adjustment with the Armarouge, and it's very clear there's a definitive game plan here against these comps. So let's see. Is there going to be a Ghost Terra? Oh, it's just going to be Protect.
Okay. So Protect coming out here first for the Mousehold, as Armarouge is also going to go for Protect here. So double Protect from Hayden just to kind of feel out what's happening in this first turn, as there's the final Gambit from the Annihilate, targeting down that Mousehold.
Yeah, I really like the double Protect play because it essentially, that Brendan's Annihilate has the Choice Scarf item. And so you're saying, okay, if I double Protect here and you stay on turn 1, I know what you're going to lock yourself into. Annihilate doesn't always have to click Final Gambit. It gets access to close combat. It gets access to...
Some questions about how, that Sylveon is really going to work here in this matchup. You know that it's a Throat Spray item, so you're really hoping that Hyper Voice is going to be able to hit its target and be able to go for those even more effective Hyper Voices.
Here it is! You know what's scarier than 4 mice? 4 ghostly mice!
No, I don't want to look at it. It's too strong. It's the final Gambit, which is not going to work into that Ghost Terra type Mousehold. So it's time for the Armarouge here to go for the Side Shock.
The Armarouge chipped away Sylveon enough where Mousehold can finish it off with Population Bomb, right? And so if you're Brendan, you could make a really high risk, high reward play of just clicking the final Gambit into the Armarouge slot, calling out, saying, I don't think the Mousehold's actually going to go for Follow Me here. Looks like Brendan's opting for a little bit more of the safer option, I think, of switching into a Dondozo. But I think that's one really intriguing play, but it's scary when you're already down a game, right? It's like if you get it wrong, it's just a complete disaster. But yeah, I think the logic behind not clicking Trick Room there with the Armor Rouge is to get damage into Sylveon so that it's in Population Bomb KO range.
Definitely. We are going to see that switch come through as Dondozo enters the field. And nice as well for Brendan to be able to reset that Choice Scarf, so you can go for something a little bit later as a Protect comes through from the Armor Rouge. So playing it a little bit safe here. There's going to be a double Protect on the field here. Was it Sylveon? It's going to do that as well. Population Bomb, targeting down that slot.
I love that play from both players. I think it's just kind of the safest option you have. Like, the one risk Brendan runs in making that play is if you actually, like, ended up...
Getting up to here. Order up, targeting down that mouse hold slot. And as Armor Rouge is going to be moving, one of the slowest on the field.
So there's the speed increase. It's
okay,
actually just
Armor Cannon. Okay, I was nervous there for a hot second that we were going to see a Trick Room, especially with that speed boost coming through there. Dondozo is going to be pretty fast, so that still might be a viable option for later.
Yeah, I was thinking if Trick Room went up there, then you get to just Encore into the...
Okay, it's going to be Sylveon getting revealed as the third Pokemon for Hayden. As the Wave Crash now comes through, Armor Rouge is definitely not going to be surviving that one. So that's going to be a quick knockout for Brendan to take too.
Yeah, actually, given that the Sylveon was in the back, there was a very clear angle for this endgame if Trick Room had gone up. It would have been in Trick Room, then you Encored the Dondozo into Order Up. It's stuck using that Dragon-type attack. Then Sylveon is completely immune to it, so it can just switch in and deal a lot of damage. So this is the thing with Dondozo Tatsugiri, right? Like, all about it is positioning. And this time around, it is so much more positioned, better positioned than in the previous game. Because, like, things that Encore and Haze can just immediately beat it. But right now, the Dondozo is just healing back a little bit every turn. It's pressuring with a lot of damage as well. And the Sylveon on Hayden's end, I believe, it has some good damage. It has Hyper Voice, but I don't see how it's clearing up Dondozo right now. I think Dondozo is just too strong at this moment. And the one solution I could think of is Yawn, but we know that Sylveon on Hayden's end actually does not have that Yawn.
Yeah, it has Substitute, so maybe you're trying to go for a little bit more of like an outlasting strategy here. But the Order Up into the Mouse Hold, there was no Protect this time around, so Mouse Hold is going to get knocked out. And that brings Hayden down to her final two Pokemon. You've got Sylveon on the field, and you also have that fourth and final unrevealed Pokemon. But the Terra Blast here, coming out, that's pretty powerful.
Whoa!
What do you make of that damage?
That shit a lot more than I actually expected. So that is quite interesting.
That is a lot more damage than I expected as well. But it's Hydreigon in the back, so maybe this is where that Encore strategy would have been a little bit tough. You had used the Terra to Terra Ghost Mouse Hold.
Yep.
And if you had locked it into Order Up, then Hydreigon doesn't have the ability to tear away its weakness there either. So Order Up now going into the Hydreigon. That's a one-hit knockout. But is that going to be, like, can Dondozo outlast this? It's going to be very fast here.
Yeah, I mean, Terra Blast here, it should survive, even though Terra Blast actually did do a considerable amount. I mean, it's an interesting solution, right? That's where I think if the Encore had come out at some point from Mousehold, this game could look pretty differently. But this is what I was saying, right? This matchup is not easy for Hayden, and so she has to get multiple turns correctly. And this time around, like, Hayden was playing lights out in the early game, but it doesn't really matter if Dondozo just gets set up, because this thing will just one-shot everything. That is the power of Dondozo Tatsugiri, and so we're going to have to go down to Game 3. I think seeing how much that Terra Blast actually does is pretty valuable information, because it's like, yeah, you can use it as offense, but the problem is, like, Dondozo is just so bulky still thanks to the stat boosts, and it's very difficult to clear. And on Hayden's side, like, a lot of Pokemon just eat up that one-hit knockout immediately, right? And so you've got to be feeling pretty good if you're Brendan in that one. You're like, oh, the Annihilate stuff didn't even work out that well. But it's interesting, right? Because Brendan, like, was able to bait out that Ghost Terra from the Mousehold. And as soon as the Ghost Terra came out, like, it's great in the short term for Hayden, but in the long term, it meant that there was no defensive Terra from Hydreigon.
Is a game number 3 here, tied up 1-1. So this game will be the deciding factor for who is going to stay undefeated in the tournament so far. Both of our trainers are at 2-0. And to be undefeated into round 3 is going to feel very, very good here. But here are the leads. It's going to be a run back is what we saw from game number 2.
Yeah, I think it felt like things did not go well for Brendan at all in the early game, and he was still able to win that last one. This time it's interesting because you're like, okay, well, Hayden has maybe the conviction to just go for that double protect play again. So it looks like Brendan's considering going for that U-turn instead, you know, just pivot out and maybe bring in Dondozo or Tatsugiri. But I do think Hayden should maybe play a little bit more towards Trick Room this time around. Armor Rouge was on the field for quite a long time in that previous match and never set up Trick Room. And so I don't expect him maybe to come out on turn 1 immediately, but I think it should maybe come out at some point in this battle.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing the lock into, even just remembering from game number 2.
Here's a Terra immediately from Hayden's end.
Is it going to be the mouse hold again? Yeah, looks like it. Okay, so maybe just in preparation for that final gambit, trying to target down that slot. But the Ghost Terra type, it's been used now. Hayden does not have access to it for later, but Armor's going for the Protect. So this is a very safe play for Hayden to make. Gonna protect away from the final gambit here coming out from the Annihilate. But then also, Mousehold might have still gotten a chance to go for a move like the Population Bomb. So that will connect with the Sylveon. But we saw from that game number 1 that it was not enough to knock it out.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, once again, that's kind of the downside of having Friend Guard. But still doing a ton of damage here, enough where I would expect a Side Shock from the Armor Rouge to finish things off. So yeah, it's a really interesting play where you're kind of just distributing damage onto Sylveon. Now, once again, like, Sylveon's not really the main problem in this matchup. It's the Dondozo plus the Tatsugiri in the back. And so this next turn is interesting where Mousehold has the very safe Follow Me. You could just go for Follow Me plus Psyshock right into Sylveon, but we could see the same play from the previous game where you protect one Pokemon, switch into the other. It looks like Brendan this time around is actually considering switching in the Tatsugiri instead of the Dondozo here, so preventing Dondozo from like eating unnecessary damage potentially. Now, it's a little bit scary. Tatsugiri does have that Citrus Berry as well, so it might actually even survive something like a Psyshock plus Population Bomb. But looks like Brendan kind of going back and thinking about things a little bit. Oh.
Ooh, okay, that's a little spicy.
Yeah. Fire Terra, I mean, it doesn't really help you against Population Bomb or Psyshock. It does help out against the Armor Cannon here, but yeah, I think ultimately you want to conserve your Terra for a Dondozo potentially because of that Amoonguss that you called out earlier might be in the back.
Yeah, you definitely want to keep yourself safe from that, but it will be Dondozo entering into the field. But a switch coming out here as well as Armor Rouge.
There's
the Amoonguss! All right, I'm starting to feel smarter about this meta, that's for sure. But the Population Bomb is going to be the first to move. So Sylveon will not get a chance to go for that Hyper Voice despite having had that Throat Spray activated. But this is a free switch in. Brendan played this really well where that Tatsugiri can now come in for free.
Yeah, what's so interesting is, like, by bringing this Mousehold and Amoonguss, like, you don't really do that much damage, although I say that a Mousehold actually did just kind of KO Sylveon after 2 hits, and so this is interesting now. Like, Brendan realizes, oh, shoot, like, you did bring Amoonguss in, you know, this time around, and so, like, you do have the ability to just go for that Flying Terra. Now, Hayden knows it's Flying Terra Dondozo, right? So you probably aren't going to just get caught off guard by it immediately. This turn feels really critical to me. It's a question of whether or not Amoonguss survives. You know, you could just protect it. You could switch it out as well. Because I think the thing with Amoonguss is if it faints, Dondozo just sweeps very cleanly like it did in the previous game, especially because the Terra was already committed to the Mousehold, so Amoonguss can't go for like a defensive Terra here either, so it's really got to worry about that potential Terra Blast.
I still think, though, if you're Brendan, you target down that slot, because at least like you either knock out the Mousehold or something else happens, and you know that Hayden does not have Protect available. So you're going to have to be able to do something here. So let's see that Terra come through for the Dondozo. Will be that flying type. And where does this damage end up going to? Does Mousehold follow me?
Critically,
like,
also no switch, right?
Yeah.
Oh!
Rage Powder. Okay. How is this going to play out then? So the U-turn is going to come through first. So Annihilate is going to go ahead and get the heck out of here. So that means that the Tatsugiri can now come switch in, provide that commander boost. And I wonder if Hayden's just kind of expecting, like, I could just let my...
I think it has to be Encore here. Basically, you're saying, okay, I'm going to lock yourself into Terra Blast, and then, like...
Yeah.
I'm wondering if King Gambit's the final Pokemon this time around, because once you're locked into Terra Blast, King Gambit resists that and can just at least go for Cleave a couple of times. And so... yeah, let's see. Oh, it's just Population Bomb, though. Okay, I think that's going to put Hayden into a really tricky spot. The bombs, they just don't really do that much damage here, right? It's going to crit this time around, and it adds up decently, but Dondozo has that leftover, so he'll be able to heal back a little bit after each turn. The Terra Blast here will, of course, just go into the Amoonguss slot as well. But I'm actually wondering, you know, with Friend Guard, is there any chance this survives? No.
No. No, maybe if you had a Koba Berry, but that's definitely not something that is available right now. This does leave us in a very interesting situation where so you still have the Armor Rouge, you have that 4th Pokemon from Hayden as well.
Yeah.
And that hasn't been revealed just yet, but Brendan's locked in.
Yes.
He's got the Terra Flying Dondozo. You can't switch anything out right now, so that has to stay on the field.
Yeah, if I'm thinking maybe Hayden brings out Armor Rouge, goes for Follow Me Trick Room, and you have a Trick Room set up where then you can just go for like Draco Meteor plus Psyshock Onslaught Dondozo slot. So I'm kind of curious what Hayden's last Pokemon was. I mentioned the Encore option into King Gambit earlier, but that's kind of like high risk, high reward. I wouldn't be surprised to just see Hydreigon waiting in the back. So, but I think if Hydreigon's in the back, I mean, one other approach you could go for is actually bring out Hydreigon and then go for Follow Me Tailwind. You could go with the Tailwind or the Trick Room out here. But yeah, I mean, there's the Hydreigon. Okay, so the other thing is, I mean, Draco Meteor actually does very meaningful damage as well, right? And so with that population bomb damage from earlier, like this turn is actually a little bit tricky. Like, I think, yeah, you can always safely order up into Hydreigon because it doesn't have Protect, and so Brendan knows that. So just saying, okay, well, I'm kind of forcing you to go for Follow Me with Mouse Hold here, essentially. But you know, I would expect maybe Follow Me and then Hydreigon just goes for a Tailwind immediately. You could just launch a Draco Meteor as well, but I wouldn't really expect it to KO the Dondozo. But what is scary is this is why some players like to use the order up with the speed increase, because then the Dondozo can actually increase its speed from each order up. And that's a really big deal in an endgame where Hydreigon might be angling to set up Tailwind right now.
Oh my god, it's the Encore. Okay, so it was able to move first. So now Dondozo has to go for the Terra Blast here. Flying Terra Blast into the Hydreigon. It does survive. And so now it's going to be able to go for just a Dark Pulse here. Interesting choice.
That's such a big interaction, though. Actually, like, that's one thing I was thinking about, because I feel like I've been conditioned to think that the mouse hold was really slow because it's this bulky set, but it's max speed mouse hold likely, right? Like, it's outspeeding Dondozo here.
Wow.
And so, wow, I didn't even think about that as an option, but that's so, so amazing. Like, this mouse hold is, like, teched out really to the maximum.
That's so cool.
So now you're locked into this Terra Blast. You can't increase your speed from order up, and the mouse hold is just faster here. Population Bomb did, like, meaningful damage earlier. I'm not sure it's enough to actually knock out the Dondozo, though.
But now Hydreigon is still alive. You could go for Follow Me here, and now Hydreigon can just go for a Draco Meteor.
Yeah,
that should be able to do the job.
I think you might want to actually consider Tailwinding this turn.
True.
And so, like, you get the speed boost, and then you can just go for knockouts after. That was so cool. Like, I was like, mouse hold's moving first. Like, I was like, what is happening right now? But like, this mouse hold said, I've never seen anyone use mouse hold this way to beat Dondozo. It's brilliant.
That
it's
is
just
so
absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so you do get the Tailwind up, and now you guaranteed to be faster than the Dondozo. A little bit of leftovers healing coming through here, but that mouse hold provides this free switch back in for him to bring in that Armor Rouge.
Yep, and now you know you're locked into Terra Blast, and so you can just go for something relatively safe like that Dark Pulse plus the Psyshock. The game's not over yet, right? I think Hayden made a really brilliant play to, I would say, yeah, keep yourself in this one, because it's not easy, but you can see so many clever solutions to Dondozo Tatsugiri. I'm still just getting over the fact, like...
Well, because you don't know that.
Yeah.
When you're looking at the team sheet, you don't know how they're trained.
And that's like, you know, people look at open team sheets and they're like, oh, you know most of the information, but not knowing the speed interaction is such a big deal, and I feel like I
wouldn't have known that.
Exactly. I was conditioned to think, hey, maybe this mouse hold isn't actually that fast because it's got the friend guard, but it's this interesting set where, like, Wide Lens and Population Bomb still does a lot of damage, even, you know, just with the friend guard. Friend guard gives you more defense as well, and yeah, this Encore is so nice in beating the speedy Dondozos. And so, yeah, I mean, it's still going to be a close finish here, but you at least have Tailwind up. You know that the Choice Scarf Annihilate in the back obviously can't have Protect as well, so you can very safely target into that slot. So I think Dark Pulse plus Psyshock here makes a lot of sense. Just double up into the Dondozo slot. There it is.
Yeah, the Psyshock as well now going to be coming through, and so that is actually going to allow survival. So Dondozo gets to use this Terra Blast here, and that should be a knockout confirmed there onto the Hydreigon. Doesn't get a chance to get off any more damage, but that's the play that Hayden had to go for.
Yeah, I honestly thought Psyshock would do a little bit more there. Had the potential to go for Armor Cannon instead for more damage as well, but not wanting to maybe eat the drops there. And now Encore ends, and that should just be game over. And so, yeah, Brendan, you know, keeping himself in this one, I do wonder if Armor Cannon could have got the knockout there. You know, of course, it was Flying Terra Dondozo. It wasn't Water type anymore. And so I think it might have had the extra little bit of damage up. But Psyshock is just considerably weaker than Armor Cannon in that position. So, yeah, I think maybe if the Armor Cannon had gone off there, Hayden could have potentially won this one, but now you're just not going to be able to beat the Dondozo. And at this point, there's still the Annihilate waiting in the back as well. So, whoa, what a crazy set!
Wow. That's absolutely wild. I mean, Dondozo tier can definitely go for that wave crash, but Armor Cannon still maybe gives a chance.
Yeah, and it would have done enough, as you saw after the 2 turns of leftovers. Recovery was around that HP, and so yeah, that's the one thing that's I think really hard about Terra, like remembering all the interactions. And I wonder there if Hayden was thinking, Psyshock will just do enough, and it's just my strongest, or thinking like Psyshock is safer, I don't want to eat up the defense drops, but Armor Cannon, or just maybe forgetting about the Water Terra, or the Flying Terra in that position. But Annihilate comes out now, we'll be able to just close things out with, any move here, like a Final Gambit, and Tatsugiri in this endgame, also very valuable. So, what a crazy, crazy best of 3 here.
Absolutely wild to see the Final Gambit as well be able to pay off, and that's going to be Brendan taking our first match on stream, staying undefeated now. But what an impressive showing from Hayden too. We saw so many incredible tech choices coming out there from the Mousehold, but also just that game 1 was perfection.